Yes, we are on. Hello, everyone, and I am going to talk about this whole Conor McGregor, Jose Aldo thing. Yes, of course, yesterday or earlier this morning, I can't really tell right now, I'm still a bit tired. McGregor and Aldo had another one of their press conferences, and McGregor stole the belt from Jose Aldo. I know some people found that a bit too WWE, but I want to touch on something said throughout the press conferences. So this is one of my buy and sell videos. Do I buy this? Do I sell this? What do I think? So we're going to buy or sell a comment made by Conor McGregor, and that was he expects this fight to do Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather numbers. Now, what do I think of that? Do I buy it? Do I sell it? Do you buy it? Do you sell it? I will say this. I half sell this one because, and here's why, and let me explain why. Do I think that this UFC is going to do big numbers? Yes, I do. When you look at the actual card, I mean, there's only been 3 fights announced. I know Dennis Bermudez is fighting on that card, and he always has good fights, and his fights always deliver. We know that there's a Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald welterweight championship fight. I know that's going to deliver. Robbie Lawler is a promoter's dream in the sense that all his fights are very highlight reel worthy. He's so easy to promote because of the way he fights, because of the knockouts that he's had, the knockouts against Melvin Manhoef, the flying knees, the stuff that he does, and he's had some great fights and a fantastic year on top of that. He's so easy to promote just in adverts and video packages, no problem there, and that's another good anchor for this card. And then you have McGregor and Aldo, which has been a fight that has been generating a lot of momentum as of late, and I think that Jose Aldo is going to be very thankful to Conor McGregor. I know it doesn't sound like he should be, but what Conor McGregor has done and what he has become is he's become the Chael Sonnen of the featherweight division. And a lot of people will be like, oh geez, why did you say that? But think about it like this. I know that Chael did some things that people aren't a fan of. I'm not necessarily a fan of the whole performance enhancing drugs thing. You know, I like him. I think he's a great interviewer. I think he had a lot of charisma. I felt he brought a lot of attention to his weight class, and that's exactly what Conor McGregor has done. Conor McGregor has come in, he's brought a lot of attention and a lot of eyeballs to this weight class. How do I know this? Because of this. There are people who I know who don't watch MMA, who don't watch the UFC, but now know who Conor McGregor is. I must have shared the story about the woman I know from the cafe that I eat at. This Irish woman I know and her family, they do not watch the UFC. They asked me when the UFC in Dublin happened, what channel is it on? How do I get to see it? I need to see this fight. They have watched every Conor McGregor fight since the Dublin show, and these are people that do not watch the UFC. This is the thing. He's become a national hero, and a national hero and national icon almost. And he's brought in a lot of people from Ireland who do not watch the UFC to the UFC, and brought attention to a weight class that had its moments. Obviously, when Uriah Faber was champion, there was a lot of press there, but not as big or nowhere near as on the scale as what we're getting right now with Conor McGregor on a bigger platform in the UFC. And Conor has done a lot of that. His charisma, his interviews, the way he carries himself, the way he wins his fights. His fights feel like big events. And I'll even say this, for a fight night card in Dublin, that actually felt like a highly important UFC pay-per-view. I completely forgot that I was watching a fight night. It did not feel like a fight night. It felt like a very important show. And I'll tell you what, I remember the traffic, I remember the press, I remember the people asking me about it. People that I go to the gym with down my road asking me about Conor McGregor, Jose Aldo, Conor McGregor. And then you've had all these, if you want to say, angles, pro wrestling term, that have happened with these two. It makes the fight even bigger. Now, the reason why I somewhat half sell this is because of this. Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather is a history-making, generation-making, legacy-making boxing fight that people will look back on years from now and reference about what that meant to the sport, because of the name value and the skill level of both. Not to say that Aldo and McGregor are not skilled. don't have any name value at their, chosen profession. But I'm saying this, there are so many, given what I just said about McGregor, there are even more people who I know who don't necessarily follow these things that have a lot of interest in seeing Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, because people know, these are the two best guys in the world. And you also have to add to this, boxing at a mainstream level is more accepted than the UFC. And people might not like that, but that's just the way it is. Boxing has its history, it has its legacy, it's had its longevity, it has all of those things over MMA, which is still in a lot of ways a relatively young sport. Boxing has hundreds of years behind it, and that's one of the reasons why it's so much easier for a Floyd Mayweather or a Manny Pacquiao to put their faces out there, because of the acceptance that boxing has had. You also have to take into account this: Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao are the two biggest draws in boxing. McGregor is developing into a draw in MMA. Jose Aldo is developing into more of a draw in MMA. I know his fights don't always do that well. I know they hit like the 200 mark, but I think that this fight is going to push him over the edge. I think the Chad Mendes fight did very good for him in terms of public perception. He really had to put on a fight there. I think that was very good for him, and we know he's the best in the world. But a lot of people thought he's a bit complacent, and a lot of people were like, I don't know about watching his fights. He's in a very similar spot that Anderson Silva was in 2008, 2009. Actually, an identical spot to what Anderson Silva was in. Going back though to this, Pacquiao has drawn big numbers in boxing for years. People know it. You go back to all his fights in terms of live attendance, in terms of pay-per-view, in terms of, I can imagine, traffic, in terms of media attention, in terms of water cooler talk, which is a term I don't even use. He draws a lot of that in. Floyd Mayweather, even more, just as much. Floyd Mayweather and Oscar De La Hoya did what? 2.1 million buys or something. It was something crazy like that, or it did a lot of buys. Mayweather has hit that million mark quite a few times lately. Obviously, he did it with De La Hoya. Obviously, I think he did very well against Ricky Hatton. I'm not sure what that number was. But you think about having Manny Pacquiao and having Floyd Mayweather in there together, you know that is a huge, huge, huge fight that the whole world is going to tune in to see. The only thing that might hurt that number just a little bit is the fact that that pay-per-view is going to cost about $90 here, and in America, and over here I think they're going to charge $60. And I know a lot of people might be a bit, I don't know about that, and they might do the thing where you get friends and you chip in and you buy it together. I think that's what's going to happen. But either way, I think that fight in some ways is bigger because it's a fight that people have wanted. Had this fight happened in 2010, I think this would have been the biggest fight undoubtedly of all time. After Pacquiao destroyed Margarito and Floyd was still winning fights, was at the height of his winning streak, I think they should have done it then. I think obviously the fight has been hurt a little bit by the fact that Manny, the controversial decision which he never lost against Timothy Bradley in my opinion, and then you have the fight with Marquez, obviously where he got knocked out, and some of that shine is gone. He came back, he bounced back from it, so maybe I think it's been diminished slightly, but who knows. But I do think that Mayweather-Pacquiao is the bigger fight of the two. But I do feel that McGregor and Aldo will do great numbers. I do feel that people are going to get more and more excited by it. And it also depends on the rest of the card too, because you also have to take into account the other factors. This is the big July show that they like to do every year. The July shows always do really well. Hopefully no one gets injured. We also don't know what the rest of the card is going to be. So if the undercard is very strong as well, then it's going to do very, very well. If the undercard isn't as strong, it's going to hurt. It's kind of like the undercard for that UFC show at in September when you had Jones and Cormier, but then you had a undercard of fights for people like me, die-hard MMA people, that were like, oh my god, this is a great card. So, yep, I think that McGregor and Aldo won't be as big as Pacquiao Mayweather. I wouldn't be surprised if it went like this. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a trilogy series. I wouldn't be surprised if McGregor really becomes the Chael Sonnen to Jose Aldo's Anderson Silva, and Jose Aldo becomes a bigger star out of it. That's what I think. So for now, you could kind of say I'm selling it, but not to discredit what they could do. By the way, if you haven't seen that McGregor stealing the belt thing, you need to check that out. If more things like that happen, it might add to it. Anyways, I'm gonna stop. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you feel. Do you think this fight will do those kind of numbers, or will it not? Which fight are you more excited for, Mayweather and Pacquiao or McGregor and Jose Aldo? I'm gonna stop. Let me know what you think. If you haven't before, hit that subscribe button. Give me a like. Write some comments down below. Peace. Take care and bye.